And the 2024 DNC comes at a favorable time for Harris as she's really gaining momentum, and the latest polls show it. Will Harris' honeymoon period last, though, and if so, for how long? For more, we are joined by Voice of America correspondent Katherine Gypson this morning. Welcome, Katherine.
Good to be with you.
Katherine, first of all, walk us through the major events that are in store for the next 4 days. Who's going to be there and who's speaking?
Well, it's a lot to walk you through because it is a packed schedule these 4 days at the United Center behind me. We, of course, are going to be hearing from President Joe Biden this evening, introduced by First Lady Jill Biden, and the only other woman who's ever been a major party nominee, Hillary Clinton, the former Secretary of State. Then we'll hear from two former Democratic presidents tomorrow night, Barack Obama and Bill Clinton. And then the really marquee events of this convention, we'll hear the nomination acceptance speech from Vice President nominee Tim Walz. And then, of course, on the final evening Thursday, we'll hear from Vice President Kamala Harris as she formally accepts the Democratic nomination.
So lots of key figures with Joe Biden and being the headliner. And, as I mentioned earlier, this convention appears to be taking place at the right time, especially for Harris, considering, nationwide polls really show she's leading her competitor, Donald Trump. Is Harris far ahead of Trump?
So it shows a varying story in some of the key swing states across the United States. And that's what we know is really the important number to be looking at. In the overall national poll, she is doing much better than Trump. But again, because of the Electoral College, we need to look at those key swing states. Now, history teaches us that conventions always give the nominee a bump in the polling. So after this convention wraps up at the end of this week, we should see an increase in Harris's polling numbers yet again.
Well, isn't that why all eyes are on whether the convention will be an extension of the so-called, Harris honeymoon period, or maybe eventually on road to the end of it?
Well, really, nobody knows because we've never had such a shortened election season for a nominee before. We had seen President Joe Biden on the campaign trail. And of course, when he stepped aside in July, there was only a matter of 100 some odd days for Kamala Harris to introduce herself to the country and then campaign around the country. Her speech on Thursday night is going to be key in introducing herself to those voters around the United States who have not yet had a chance to hear from her.
On top of that, the convention is expected to draw, tens of thousands of anti-war protesters. How's it looking at the moment on the first day?
So we have heard there have been a handful of arrests from the protesters. I know, speaking from personal experience, that my shuttle bus here to the convention was reportedly stopped by some of those protests. So far, it's not caused any major disruption to the convention, though.
Well, that's good. Well, in the meantime, though, before I let you go, Katherine, what lies ahead for Donald Trump, though? What is he up to while, Harris keeps herself in Chicago?
Donald Trump is headed to the U.S.-Mexico border soon. He'll be talking about one of his favorite topics, the issue of undocumented immigrants, what he calls illegal immigration. Expect him to be hitting Vice President Kamala Harris really hard on that issue, saying that she has worsened this problem.
All righty, Katherine, thank you so much for your report today. We appreciate it.
Good to be with you.